into more systems with Endwalker, but Fia does say they should figure out a way to turn skill buttons into the next skill in the combo, so that a 3-button combo is really just one button that changes as you go. Do you think? What do you think about
PvP.
that? That's
PvP.
the
PvP button. They've already done that. They clearly don't want to do that. Otherwise, they would have done it already because the technology. They already figured out how to do it. So that's not going to happen.
They also do it in PvE in special circumstances when you're kind of playing and you're stepping into another role. It's like 1, 2, 3, and then I don't think it actually weakens it. I've obviously wished that we could either do that or allow us to have that control. I call it stacking. Like, just let me set like this ability and then following this ability, that ability, and that way I could end up just kind of creating my own. But I would love to personally see that when it comes to the controller, because I do wonder, especially when we talk about if skills are going away, at some point it's like you have I worry about the earlier game. So I'm seeing that maybe more of our skills evolve, or at least have it happen automatically, like what they're doing with Gunbreaker and Summoner in some cases, where the skills take on what the summon is. So they're not extra buttons that are just floating out there. Go ahead.
It's a double. Oh, sorry.
You talk about Legend Red Mage, and so I'll toss this to you. Red Mage, a lot of it is about skill priority. And so by adding new evolutions of a skill, you can say, hey, when you play it in level 30, you're going to do it as 1, 2, 3. When you get into level 60 content, there's going to be situations where it's actually 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, right? And so like you don't have to add more abilities to add complexity if the evolutions cause the skills to take on different situations. Like, so how do you visualize, if you don't want to add the skill bloat, how do you visualize making the new game feel new and fresh, but not making scaled content feel like I'm just single button?
I mean, it's just the thing to me is that what Brian just talked about, I think actually what you just said, Chris, is a good example of how to do it right, which is you still have to press a different button, right? You're still going, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, whatever. You're still swapping between different buttons. Whereas what people were suggesting is like, no, I just want my 1, 2, 3 combo in one button. And that, I think, is not necessarily a good thing. I think it's good in PvP because you need to be paying attention to a lot of other things, and that allows you to focus on other aspects of the game without focusing on your rotation. But I remember that when I started playing the game, I was like, dude, these rotations in this game, this is crazy. Like, why the hell do I want to do all of these things and then go to the other combo and then the combo that comes after that one? This is insane. But as I mastered it, I was like, you know what? This is actually really satisfying, and it feels way better than what I used to do in other MMOs. Just like figure out which are the 4 buttons that really matter, and then just mash my face against them whenever the cooldown is up, pretty much.
Savage has made me respect some of the buttons that I could have been okay being macroed prior to Savage. There were moments in E12 where, like, there's a Shiva phase, and we all cut through the middle, and to survive it, we were having me use Shake It Off as a warrior, which is an AoE. Everybody gets defensive, but Shake It Off has a secondary piece of the tooltip for anybody that hasn't ever played warrior. There's a secondary piece of the tooltip where the Shake It Off gets better if you have other defensives up, because it consumes those. And so prior to that phase, I was stacking buffs on myself to just avoid minimal damage, not really. And then before those fall off, as I passed through the middle, I was consuming it for a big Shake It Off. And if you make all my defensives just this defensive, then this one, and the more times I press it, I want 2 defensives, I want 3 defensives, and I'm just pressing it, then it doesn't help.
Is that how you were doing it?
Mentally, it was how I was doing it. They were all in different bars, but mentally, it might as well have been macroed. Mentally, it was like, oh, this is a 2 defensive moment. This is a 3 defensive moment. This is a 1 defensive moment. Things are getting a little hairy. Let me push 1. Oh, nope, not quite there. Let me push 1 more. Now, which defensive might change, right? So like a reprisal is a very different situation than a rampart. But ultimately, I was thinking in my head, is 1 mitigation enough? If not, is 2 enough? If not, is 3 enough? And I was just working down the line. But with Shake It Off, it's very specifically, which defensives do I want to consume and how many of those do I consume? And so it starts to change the relationship with those buttons. But the problem is you can't say, okay, well, every player needs to progress to the final boss of a Savage tier before they can appreciate all their buttons. That's ridiculous. Yeah. So as we move into Endwalker, we have role quests. Why are role quests not Mage Tower? Like, why are role quests not encouraging us to enjoy, because you played the BFA, so you would have done Mage Tower and Legion, right? So why
I didn't do Mage Tower.
Okay, so are you aware what Mage Tower is?
Yeah. It's challenging. Isn't Mage Tower kind of like? Isn't it like what Blue Mage has to do, right? Isn't there like a Blue Mage quest that's similar to? Yeah.
It's a masked carnival for every single job in the game that gives you an ultimate glamour style weapon. Super glowy, awesome. Amazing weapon. And you had to beat these tiers of it, and they were individually designed encounters for your job. Now, some people naturally thought were easier than others because balance is hard. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what it was you're going to have to know what all your job can do. Not, I just play my paladin, but I don't like the magical rotation, so I just don't do that. You could clear all normal content in this game with the physical paladin rotation and Sheltron. No clemency, no other defensives, no limit break on the bar. Requiescat, I just took it off the bar. You could clear every single normal piece of content in this game, and you wouldn't have to be amazingly geared. It's all clearable. No. But you could. And this says, okay, but you won't clear Mage Tower like that. So role actions is the opportunity where I would love to see Endwalker move to something that teaches us, besides making like, oh, well, if you're not doing Savage, there's no need to get better. No, I should just get better because I enjoy playing the game, and it would be fun to play the game better.
Yeah. It's one of those things. When you do something like that, though, it definitely needs to be optional, because there's a lot of players that just don't want to engage with that content. It's that simple. Final Fantasy XIV as a community, from what I've seen, from my experience in the game, it's like there's just some people that just want to hang out. They want to do content every now and then, and then they want to like hang out at their FC house and just like chat with the people or not. And that's a perfectly legitimate way to play and enjoy the game.
If you're having fun,
you can have that content, so long as it's not like mandatory in the quest. Or if it's mandatory, you just have the thing where they do now whenever you fail like a scenario, they're just like, hey, you want to bump down the difficulty
story mode,
progress. Yeah,
normal mode, extreme, savage.
Dude, the first time they did that to me, it was like a slap in the face. I'm like, what do you mean? You think I'm not good enough for this? Excuse me?
What was the first encounter that did it to you?
Mine
was the blue weapon, because it turns out I don't know how to pilot a Gundam.
I actually don't remember, but it was something. It was something with my paladin. I don't remember exactly what it was. It definitely happened to me on one of the role quests in Shadowbringers, where I got a little bit trounced around. Like one of the tanking quests was actually challenging for me, because the markers were stacking a lot, and I was not used to like stacking markers, because like it fills up the whole screen, but you just have to remember which order were they in, so that okay, this one's going to disappear first. And that was like the first time that I had to deal with a situation like that. And I was like, whoa. The screen's full. There's nowhere to go. What the hell is going on? And I'm also playing, I'm looking at chat, and I'm just like relaxed. And then suddenly it's like, there's a screen full of telegraphs. Like, what am I supposed to do here? So yeah, and then that message pop up, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? You don't think I'm good enough? Like, what?
There's been many times, I guess, when playing Final Fantasy XIV that it's nice to be humbled. Because it's like, I've been playing this game for so long, I got this. And then you're like, well, what did I do?
Maybe I don't.
Maybe I don't. All right, cool. Now I like it when they get to throw new things at me. And speaking of obviously new things, is that as we get into expansion, it's like we've covered a lot of things. We talked about like kind of inputs and jobs and stuff like that. But when it comes to like deep dungeon, things that we might get, like, I would hesitate on saying soft confirmed. Yoshi P said he was surprised by how many people really kind of missed it within Shadowbringers, and they want to look to bring it back. They took some of the content in the leveling form and brought it into other things, which I think was healthy. And I hope that we all see leveling spread out across all different content. I've seen the counter argument being like, but then that content's going to die because it's not leveling content. It's like, you don't understand. The content exists and it's fun on its own. How people choose to level should be how they choose to level. We don't need to funnel people in just for one mindset, right? But deep dungeon, raids, like what are you hopeful for with the Endwalker drop, like content wise and system wise?
I mean, we never get raids on the first patch, right? I'm still kind of new at some of this, because when I came in, like, with Endwalker was already like at 5.2 or something. Endwalker, Shadowbringers was like 5.2 or something when I came in, and then eventually I think I got caught up on 5.2. So I don't know what exactly is like the
I'll walk you through it real easy, because we technically don't get the raid on 6.0. It will be 6.01. It usually, now history shows that we get it 2 weeks after the expansion, and then we get the Savage version 2 weeks after that. So that is so that people can take their time and enjoy the game and the story. Doesn't mean people won't rush it.
For those of you doing math, that is indeed right up against Christmas and New Year's for Savage Frog.
That is terrible. That's such a terrible. Why would you do that?
Well, I mean, I don't think you really have a choice with the global pandemic and everything.
Yeah,
like
game was supposed to release in June, July. This was not such devastation. Was not their intention.
It's like, but I'm genuinely asking, wouldn't people prefer like it's okay? So just make Savage like 1 month, like make it. Just extend the time so that it doesn't land right, because gamers are gamers, we're already antisocial. No, really?
Okay. So as a WoW player, you're used to patch lengths being this arbitrary amount that the record patch length I think is as short as 77 days, and the longest is like, what if we just didn't do another one? That's a method.
Warlords of Draenor.
Warlords of Draenor was like, we could also just have a patch without a raid. Like we'll call it a patch because we said it was one. So Final Fantasy patches are not only consistent, we get 5. So it's kind of like Call of Duty's. People were mad that the Call of Duty didn't get delayed when they found out that it wasn't going to run well on the new consoles. But the problem is they can't delay it because they have another one in 12 months. So if they kick it out, it's their business model doesn't allow for it. So they just released a crappy version of Call of Duty. So Final Fantasy, while it thankfully has not had to release crappy patches, it does have a schedule to keep to. It has 5 patches, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. We also have half patches for each of those. And those have a recipe of the fundamental base items that are inside of them. And then we get additional items layered on top that we don't know what those are yet. That means that to finish an expansion in 2 years, we have to stay on the schedule, or it kicks the expansion out. So when we had a patch delayed, that's the reason that the whole expansion is delayed. And so you can't kick the Savage raid out too far, or it pushes against 6.1. So maybe you could kick it out 4 weeks, but you have to be very aware. Then you're restricting the number of raid lockouts between the 6.0 raid and the 6.2 raid, which will be the second tier, because with the 0.1 raid, on the off tiers, we do the alliance raids. So we'll have our Myths of the Realm 24-man Alliance series, part 1, part 2, point 3, point 1, point 3, point 5 will be the 3 parts. And then with our main patches, that'll be our raid series, 0.0, 0.2, 0.4.
I guess with me only getting caught up at 5.2, I still haven't gotten used to the fact that there's actually a plan with this game. That's such a foreign concept. There's actually a plan. Yeah. It's not just like
we can't eat lunch late because we have dinner.
Let's put this out and then we'll figure out when we're gonna put the next one out. That's kind of like how stuff used to work.
It's not just a plan. It's like it's one of the most underrated kind of things that people really don't think about, is that imagine 7.0 is already written. Yep. And then realize that 7.0 is written. So it's like it's not like okay, because how they deliver that content. And one of the things that literally is, I think, a real big selling point of Final Fantasy XIV, because I didn't realize it. Like this was just like, oh, we get our updates every 3.5 months, like on clockwork, minus global pandemic, coming in and, throwing a wrench in it. But still, they were able to spin right back up into it. And we still continue to get our content for the game. And then that left everybody wondering, outside of any people coming from one game to another, outside of Asmongold bringing his, horde and changing the game, in which that it, like we talked about this in pre-show, guys, thank you so much for, the memberships, because you get to check out the pre-show if you missed it. But we talked about this in pre-show is like literally like that breaking down barriers where like, here's Brian, here's Chris, here's Rory. Like, guys, you got to come play 14. It's really a good game. I don't know. I'm good. Hey, Asmon's playing Final Fantasy 14. And then everybody's playing Final Fantasy 14 because it was like this last barrier of like, I'm not so sure. And then it's like, oh, wow, this is a really great experience. And so when you look at it, that delivery, Chris said it, like we were sitting here in ARR and he was like, this is incredible. We get these really great patches like every 3 months. Like this is something to be excited about. And these aren't, small patches. Like we get all this content. And I go,
it's consistent to a fault. Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. I come and stay with you for 3 months because, I have a job in your area. And every day I make your bed for you. I pack your lunch for you. I make dinner and I clean your house. The first week you're like, I like having this guy around. Like there's all this stuff that just gets done. I will tell you, veteran players at this point in Shadowbringers are like, yeah, he's going to make my bed. He's going to make me lunch. Like, so at this point, there is almost a resentment of like, oh, we're going to get 2 new tomes and a new raid. Oh, we're going to get 5 leveling dungeons. Like, people are like, how do Brian and Chris, I said there will be a second live, like they said, there's going to be 2 more live letters. We get 2 live letters before every single patch. And so I said the second one will be on November 5th. And then they announced it and they're like, it's November 5th. And I was like, oh, I got it. Like, because it's always 2 weeks prior to the content. So it wasn't magic. The second piece is always 2 weeks prior to the content. So I just pulled that from 5 years of them doing the same freaking thing every single time. We will have an 81, 83, 85, 87, 89 dungeon. I have seen no Endwalker content. We have not been to the media tour. And I can tell you, likely we will have 5 leveling dungeons. Why would I think that? Because we got 5 leveling dungeons with Heaven's Word and we got 5 leveling dungeons with Stormblood.
Like we're like psychics, like, my phone has unread emails. Aha. Oh. Wow, what a concept.
So for all the new players coming in with Shadowbringers, they are going to hit 6.0 and they're going to be shocked by the amount of content and they're going to wonder, okay, when is there more? And then 6.0.5 will come out and they'll be like, oh my gosh, there's even something else. And then 6.1 will drop and they'll go, wow, this is a lot. And then 6.1.5 will drop. And like, it's a cadence, but once you've been through one full cycle, one full 2-year cycle, some of it will start to feel familiar. And that's how they do it, is it's a formula. The basis of a Final Fantasy expansion is pre-baked.
You could almost say it's like, whenever someone goes and they start live streaming, right? Everybody says, and it should be a well-known thing that one of the biggest things is having a schedule and consistency. This is why I suck. I don't have a schedule. I'm not consistent. And so
it's like, screw you, advice. Advice, get the hell out of my face. I will do
I know exactly what the problem is. I just can't do it.
I keep scheduling to get a schedule, but
yeah. But it's like,
where's my secretary?
That's probably one of the tenets of success of the way that they do the patch cycle in 14 is like, it's consistency. It's just consistency, and people know when to expect it. But like you were talking about raids and stuff that I'm hyped about doing. It's like, for one,